The Tennis Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gam Podcast Network is brought to you by Rock Fantasy. Play their fantasy pick'em for a chance to win 100 times your money in NBA, MLB, NHL, golf, and more. Sign up today using promo code SGPN to get 100% deposit match. We're also brought to you by the premier arbitrage sports betting tool, Avo. Use their tool to bet both sides into lock in a profit. Access their platform for free at arbsverseodds.com. That's ARBSVSODDS.com. Plus, in honor of Masters Week, the Golf Gambling Podcast guys are giving away a tailor-made Spider X putter for free. Enter at sportsgampodcast.com/masters. And welcome, everybody, to the Tennis Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Game Podcast Network. It is currently late Sunday night, April 14th, roughly 11 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm your host, always, Scott Reichel, once again going solo for this pod. Had a very good week last week, just simply put, going through Monte Carlo. We ended up sweeping 3 straight episodes, the round of 16, the quarterfinals, and the semifinals. Unfortunately, the sweep run did come to an end, but we did decently on the actual final between Tsitsipas and Ruud. Now we have a busy episode as we have 3 tournaments to preview, 3 clay events. We have a 500 event in Barcelona. We have a couple of 250s in Bucharest and in Munich. So we're going to cover those 3 events in a second, but before we continue that, first of all, do want to remind everybody to like and subscribe on YouTube, or you can rate and review the podcast on Spotify or Apple. Haven't really seen many reviews recently, so if you can leave a message of some kind and a 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify, we would definitely appreciate it. Same with YouTube. I believe we are now into the 110s in subscribers. We're trying to bump that to 200, hopefully by, let's aim for the end of the month, give or take. So if you like tennis, and maybe your friends do too, don't be shy to tell them about the podcast. Either way, though, point is, don't forget to like and subscribe, and don't forget to rate and review. Also, a reminder, we have some merchandise in the SGPN merch store. So we have shirts, we have mugs, a lot of great overall high-quality stuff in order to support the show that you can buy. So I recommend buying some merch of the Tennis Gambling Podcast. I have a couple of shirts, very comfortable. Recommend you getting one. Anyway, time to get into the actual recap of the Monte Carlo final between Tsitsipas and Ruud. Overall, the lock and dog picks were okay. As I said before, did win the lock. Ended up having Tsitsipas money line at minus 140. That was really never in doubt. Won the first set comfortably, and then ended up getting the break at the end to win in straight sets. 3-time champion now in Monte Carlo. It's basically Tsitsipas' favorite tournament, and he was able to dominate in the final against Ruud. The problem was he dominated too much because we had the over 2.5 sets as the dog at plus 130. I don't want to call it a bad bet because Ruud did have 5 breakpoint chances in the second set. 5. So Ruud had a bunch of chances to go up a break and maybe force a decider. But Ruud, from what I've noticed watching him over the last couple of months, he's really bad on big points. Just simply put, he's not really that efficient when it comes to converting breakpoint chances, and he was really bad yesterday because I believe he never broke. I think he went 0 for 5. So point is, Ruud had some chances, failed them all, and Tsitsipas did win that one in straight sets. Good for him. I know we've been critical of him for the last couple of months, rightfully so. He was playing some terrible tennis, but he did make us a lot of money this past week. So shout out to Tsitsipas for kind of changing the perception about him in 2024 and for winning a Masters 1000 title. So congrats to him there. And we'll see how he looks this week because he's going to be in Barcelona. So he has another event to play in, and we'll see how he holds up physically. Point is, though, for the episode, Tsitsipas, good win there. Ruud really only wins 250s. I believe he is. I forgot the exact stat, but he's only won a 250 event. He's never won a 500, never won a 1000, and he's never won a Grand Slam. I want to say that he's 0-7, I think, lifetime outside of 250s. So Ruud seems to be an expert at the minor tournaments, but he always chokes in the big tournaments. And that's really been the story of his career, and that did not change on a Sunday. Now, anyway, time to get into the actual preview of the events. So we have 3 events. Once again, we are going to go in chronological order, and the Barcelona tournament and the Munich tournament both start at 5 a.m. Eastern. Bucharest, though, does start at 4 a.m. So Bucharest will be where we go first. So for starters, got to mention the history of the event. It might seem new because we've not had an event in Bucharest in a while. In fact, we've not had the event here since 2016. So no recent winners to go through. It's nice to have Bucharest back in the rotation, and we'll see how the tournament goes. Point is, though, if this looks a little bit different and maybe a little bit unfamiliar to you, it makes sense because the event did not happen last year, did not happen the year prior, did not happen since 2016. Now, for the outright picks, I'm going to warn you right now, the event is pretty wide open based on odds. In fact, you have two co-favorites at plus 650. So that tells you where this event might be headed. Full on chaos. Anyway, for the co-favorites, you have Cerundolo at 650. A reminder that you can shop around and probably find better lines available for these outrights. But Cerundolo is 650. Korda is 650. Korda's a co-favorite of an event. This ain't know the event's going to be a circus. Sonego is 8-1. Greek Sport is 8-1. Tabilo is around 10-1. Martinez is 12-1. Kekmanovic is 14-1. Borges is 14-1. Darderi is 16-1. Fuchsovics is 16-1. Seabold Weil is 20-1. Kokkinakis 20-1. Wawrinka 20-1. Mutet 20-1. Shapo is 20-1 as well. Korea is 25-1. Navone is 25-1. Golfen is 25-1. Kovacevic is 25-1. Nardi's 25-1. Fonseca, the up-and-coming Brazilian player, is 28-1. Rinderknech is 28-1. Gaston is 33-1. And Gasquet is the longest shot at 40-1. So once again, the favorite in the event is around 650. And the longest shot is 40-1. Expect absolute chaos in this event. That's my advice to you. Now, as for the actual picks, I'm going to warn you right now. I didn't go with any of the super duper long shots, but I didn't pick any of the favorites either. To go through them, Cerundolo, I definitely don't want to trust. I think that he makes sense as being a favorite, but he has really not been consistent enough, really in a while. So I don't want to really take him as the favorite. Korda, everyone knows I hate on the show. I think Korda is an extremely overrated player who is very mentally weak. So I'm also not sure if he's great on clay. I think he's okay for an American, but the bar is set very low because most Americans are really bad on clay. But Korda, I wouldn't take as a co-favorite if my life depended on it. You have Sonego at 8-1, who I don't trust either. Greek Sport, I don't mind, but I don't know if he's a great clay player, so 8-1 I think is a bit cheap. Then we get into the two guys I'm actually tempted by and the two guys I'm going to take. I am going to go with Tabilo. I shopped around. I found 12-1. He has done pretty well so far this season. Did win a hardcore title in the early portion of the season as he won in Auckland. Then he made the final in his home country in Santiago in Chile. So the point is, Tabilo, I know, has the game to potentially make a deep run in this event if the serve is going, I'd say, in a solid overall direction. If he's able to hit his spots and potentially volley a bit, I do think he can definitely create a unique weapon that he possesses compared to the rest of the competition. Plus, the draw itself is actually pretty favorable. So Cerundolo, to go through his section, might face Coria, Seabold Wild, or Navone or Darderi. Darderi and Navone play each other in the first round, which is really annoying because I'm sure a lot of you know that I actually do like Navone quite a bit, but I'm really not a fan of that little quartet there. With Seabold Wild, Darderi, and Navone. I don't really care much about Nardi, but he's a decent clay player. Point is, though, you're just going down the line, and Martinez is a decent draw. Matchup against a qualifier in the first round, then potentially Kekmanovic or Gofen, and then probably the winner of Korda and Kokkinakis. I'm mostly just going to fade Korda. I don't trust him. I think Tabilo's game can definitely create problems for Korda if he's able to hit his spots on the serve, because he'll shorten up the points, and he'll let Korda potentially self-destruct in some big moments, which he always does. So I do like Tabilo there in the Korda section, getting a decent price at 12-1. My other pick's going to be on a guy that's been in very good form on clay, and he's a guy that actually made a final on clay in Estoril. I am going to go with Martinez at around 12-1 as well. Going through his draw, also pretty favorable. So Martinez has a qualifier in the first round, then a matchup. Actually, I realized I messed that up. Martinez was the one who was in the section with Korda. Apologies. So I accidentally said the names wrong there. As for Tabilo, he is a bye in the first round. Then a matchup against either Gaston or Rinderknech. I like my chances. Then either Sonego, Fonseca, or Kovacevic. So the point is Tabilo has a very easy draw into basically the quarters, and at that point, I kind of like his chances. So I apologize. I accidentally flipped the players. Martinez was the one who was grouped with Korda. Tabilo, though, has an easy draw. I mean, you're looking at a potential semifinal matchup against the likes of, I guess, Greek Sport. I mean, Griekspoor is the favorite. He's on the other side of the bracket as Cerundolo and Korda and some of the other favorites. So when you have two co-favorites and he's on the other side of the bracket, I like the potential there for Tabilo. So give me Tabilo in this one. Once again, the event's pretty unknown because we have not seen it being held here since 2016. But I am going to go with the, I'd say, middling odds guys. I do think Martinez and Tabilo have been in good form. I think they're good on clay, and I do think that they're both in a pretty good spot based on the draw to make a respectable run and to maybe win the whole thing. So once again, my picks for Bucharest, I am going to go with Tabilo at 12-1, and I am going to go with Martinez at 12-1. Nobody else. Moving on to the other 250 event, we have Munich, and the previous winners here are pretty interesting because we had a rematch in last year's final as Rune ended up beating Van de Zandschulp. The year before that, Rune beat Van de Zandschulp. In fact, Van de Zandschulp retired in the first set in a very underwhelming and disappointing final, especially for the paying fans, because they finished a handful of games before injury was too much for Van de Zandschulp to handle. You had COVID, and the year before that, you had Basilashvili beating Struff. So Rune's won 2 straight. He's going for 3 straight because he is back in this event after losing that heartbreaker to Sinner. Respectable showing, but he still fell short. So to go through the actual odds here for Munich, you have Rune as around a plus 225 favorite. Zverev, the home country guy, is around plus 250. Fritz is around 6-1. Draper's 12-1. Felix is 12-1. Struff is 14-1. Another home country guy. Green is 18-1, who looked pretty decent in his last tournament that he was in. You have Van de Zandschulp at 22-1. You have Thiem at 25-1. Mickelson at 28-1. To be honest, I really don't see many players worth a damn on clay in the latter stages. Maybe that'll come back to bite me if one of these guys makes a deep run. A lot of names mentioned, but I really don't think many of these guys are good. Full disclosure, at least on clay, good enough to win this event. So, yeah, I'm not going to make a case. If I was going to make a case for a long shot, it would be Hanfmann at 28-1 solely because he's a home country guy, and I have seen him play on clay. He's pretty good on clay. So that would be my long shot, but once again, not going to actually take it. Now, the question is, do I think anybody is going to actually challenge Rune or Zverev for the title? I do not. Now, Rune almost lost in the final to Van de Zandschulp. I think Rune had to fight off like 5 or 6 match points. It was embarrassing. But it was a massive choke job by Van de Zandschulp, and eventually Rune won in a final set breaker. 2-time champion, though. He's been in great form, and once again, he's a 2-time champion. I just think that Rune is finally playing good overall tennis. He looked really good in Monte Carlo, took a set off Sinner, fought off a couple match points in the process. I think Rune is, when he's on, a very, very solid clay player. And a lot of people are automatically going to assume he's going to be a wild card in this event and he's going to potentially self-destruct. Maybe, but he's very comfortable here. He's very good, and I do think that he's in a line for a pretty good price. I found 275, so I am going to take that as my first choice. My second pick is Zverev, not going to reinvent the wheel. Very good clay player as well. He ended up losing to Tsitsipas in Monte Carlo, which apparently was not a bad loss because Tsitsipas ran the table and won the entire event. In fact, he only dropped 1 set in the entire event. So, point is, Tsitsipas has been in great form, and Zverev lost to him. It is what it is. Respectable scoreline, though, 7-5, 7-6. So, for me, I'm going with the 2 favorites. I'm really not going to make a case for any long shots. I just don't think the field is that strong. Simply put, I mean, you can really look at the entire field in the draw, and we know Fritz, as an American, he's an okay clay player, not great. I would take Rune and or Zverev to beat Fritz in that one, and then you just have a drop-off. Struff is not a player I fully trust to make a deep run. Decent draw, though. He could, but I do think that Rune and Zverev are better, and I think that Struff will probably struggle at some point with his consistency, and the unforced error count can be an issue. So give me the chalk here. Give me Rune and Zverev. Not really going to reinvent the wheel. Moving on to the biggest event of the week, you have Barcelona, which is the only ATP 500 event of the week. So previous winners, you have Alcaraz winning 2 straight years, beat Tsitsipas in the final last year, beat Carreño Busta, forgot about that guy, in the final 2 years ago, and then you had Nadal beating Tsitsipas, I believe, the year before COVID. So Tsitsipas has made the final in 2 of the last 3 events, or 2 of the last 3 times this event has been held, and he's off a title. So you can argue that Tsitsipas might be tired. I don't know. I thought he was in great form. He made us a lot of money. I feel like we kind of owe it to Tsitsipas to potentially take him as an outright in this event because we made so much profit on him last week that he kind of earned it, so to speak. Now, a couple of news stories to mention for the sake of this tournament. First of all, the two-time defending champion and the favorite of the event is not playing. Alcaraz withdrew again because of injury, so it does appear that the injury he was dealing with that kept him out of Monte Carlo is kind of serious, and we'll see how he looks moving forward. The point is, though, I do think that Alcaraz is probably going to be fine for the French Open, but he decided it wasn't worth his time. Means the injury is a big deal, though, because it's in his home country and he's a two-time defending champion. So not exactly a great sign for Alcaraz with the arm bothering him. So we'll see how he looks moving forward. However, for the Spanish fans, there was a bright side to the injury news. Alcaraz is out, but the old guard is in. Nadal is back. Nadal is making his return. He has not played for the last couple of months, and he is going to give it his best. How's he going to look? I don't know. We have not seen him since the Netflix slam, where Alcaraz went at about 30% strength to keep the match competitive. But Nadal is back. How's he going to look? I don't know. But it's probably, I'd say, one of his favorite events here, or on the entire tour. He's basically won every clay event, I don't know, like double-digit times at this point. But the point is he's won this event 12 times. And the fun fact of this event, the center court for Barcelona has been named after Nadal. So anytime you have the main court named after you, I guess you feel like you have to show up. Now, which Nadal are we going to get? I have no idea. According to the quotes about a week ago, he was not expecting to play here. So I am a bit surprised to see him. I'm happy to see him. How is he going to look? I have no idea, once again. So we'll see how Nadal looks. But he will be playing, and his odds are definitely cheap. Probably cheaper than they should be. Full disclosure. Now, to get into the actual outright odds, first of all, I see somebody in the comment section. Julian, I'm doing well. How's it going with you? What's up? Thanks for stopping by. Going through the actual outright odds for this event. So starting off with the favorite, you have a pretty interesting collection of players here, a pretty deep field in general. Tsitsipas is the favorite at about plus 450. You have Ruud as the second favorite at plus 550. So the two finalists from Sunday are the two lowest odds to win this event. Nadal is the third lowest price player at 6-1. You have Rublev at 9-1, Khachanov at about 14-1. Once again, shop your lines. You can find better prices. Musetti is 16-1. De Minaur is about 16 or 18-1. Humbert is 25-1. Baez is 25-1. Jari's 28-1. I told you last episode or a couple episodes ago we wrote off Jari, so we're not going to take him again for a while. Echeverry is 28-1. Diaz Acosta is 33-1. Fekina is 33-1. I'll mention it because he's a Spaniard. Baena is 40-1 as well. I'm skipping over names here. Nori at 33-1 is a bit disrespectful, but I kind of understand it. But he's still a good player. I think 33-1 is a bit large, but I'm not going to take him. Just mentioning that. Agut, if you want to go for the veterans from Spain, he is 40-1 as well. Munar is 50-1. Once again, not really going to take any serious long shots. Ramos Vinolas is 100-1 if you care. Anyway, moving on to my actual picks for the event and my logic for it. So, first of all, I am going to go with Tsitsipas. I found 5-1. In great form, two-time finalist here. I think that he finally found his confidence, and when he's confident, he's an elite clay player. You can hate him all you want. I get it. He was one set away years ago from winning a French Open title and for actually beating Djokovic 3-0 in a French Open final. So I know he couldn't close the deal, but the point is he has done well on clay in his career. It's probably his best surface. I don't have the win percentages in front of me, but he's definitely more comfortable on clay, and he has been very good here in years past. Give me Tsitsipas at 5-1. I like the price there. As for Ruud, I'm not going to take him. It's a 500. I just said earlier in the show, Ruud has never won a 500 and never won a 1,000. He only wins 250s. I'm not going to bother. Good luck to Ruud. I'm not putting money on him. Nadal. Once again, the court is named after him. Like, I know Nadal is an all-time, the best clay player of all time, not even close. I get it. But when his quotes last week were basically him saying, I'm struggling, but I'm going to try to get out there as quickly as possible, that doesn't exactly instill much confidence for me to actually take him to win the event. If he wins it at 6-1, I'll be happy for him. I'm not going to be mad if Nadal beats me because he's won this event 12 times. But I think 6-1 is cheap because I don't know physically if he's going to hold up, and that's going to be a problem. So I think for the sake of the event, I'm going to pass on Nadal. If you want to take him, maybe take him in the first round or two. I think he has a matchup against Dimonauer, though, in the second round, which is not exactly a great scheduling spot for Nadal. But until I actually see him play, I can't take him to win an event at 6-1. I think that's an insane price. It's not as insane as the Indian Wells price when we just saw him in the Netflix final or Netflix Slam, and we knew he couldn't move, and he ended up quitting and not even participating in the event. Those odds were worse. But Nadal, until I actually see him play, I cannot take him at 6-1. Rublev, hell no. He's been terrible ever since he got thrown out of Dubai. Moving on. Khachanov, I am going to take. Khachanov's in that weird spot where I found 16-1, where he looked really bad in the match he got eliminated in Monte Carlo, but Tsitsipas historically has owned him. And a reminder, it's one of those spots where you get killed in a match and people are kind of down on you, and then the guy who you ended up losing to won the entire tournament. So I can't even get mad at Khachanov. He just faced Tsitsipas, who was in the middle of a god run, and he ended up losing in straight sets. So I'm not going to be too harsh on Khachanov. I thought he looked good before the Tsitsipas match, and I do think his draw is really not that bad. To go through Khachanav's draw here, he has a bye in the first round, then probably a Gut, but maybe Safulin, then Nori or probably Kachin, who's been really bad. So maybe Nori there, who he just beat in Monte Carlo. So I like Khachanav's chances there. But you're really going down the line, and I think that he can potentially beat whoever's in his path immediately. Is he going to win the event? Probably not. But I do think Khachanov at 16-1 is a pretty good price for a pretty good draw. Give me him at 16-1. And I am going to go with one long shot, one guy that, once again, kind of ran into the same script as, or same fate as Khachanov. I am going to go Etcheverry. I see Etcheverry at 34-1. He got absolutely murdered by Tsitsipas. He lost 12 straight games. He lost 6-1, 6-0. But Tsitsipas, once again, did win the event. And the reason why I'm bringing up Etcheverry to potentially win the event, I really, really like his draw. He has a bye in the first round, which might surprise you, but he's a bye. Then a matchup against either Morozin or Landalucci, and I like Etcheverry's chances there. Then a matchup against either Evans, Nakashima, or Rublev. Rublev's been really bad. I think Etcheverry can potentially make some noise, and then maybe he'd match up against Khachanov. Is he going to win the event? Probably not. But for a path like that, with Rublev being the main weapon or main threat in his section, that's really not bad based on Rublev's form. I think 34-1 is a good price. I think Etcheverry is a good clay player. And even though he got killed in Monte Carlo to Tsitsipas, he did beat Jarry in straight sets the round prior. So I know he's a good clay player. I think that he's healthy because he looked healthy in Monte Carlo. I do think that 34-1 is a bit large based on the draw. I think he should be closer to, in my opinion, 25-1, give or take, and maybe 20-1. But you're going down the line for the actual odds here. And I find it interesting that Jarry's 28-1 and Etcheverry is around 34-1. I feel like that's a bit off to me, and I think I'm going to try to capitalize on that. My long shot will be Etcheverry to get the job done at around 34-1. Anyway, looking at the actual, I'd say, once again, the recap of my outright picks. For the actual lock, for the locks we'll get into in a second, and the dogs as well, but for Bucharest, for the actual picks, we're going to go with Tabilo at 12-1, and we are going to go with Martinez at 12-1. Apologies, but we have no quarter odds for any of these events. For Munich, we're going to look at Rune at 275 and Zverev at 275. Pure chalk. Really think it's a weak field. Give me the favorites to get it done in that tournament. And for Barcelona, I have three choices. Give me Tsitsipas at 5-1. Give me Khachanov at 16-1. And for a long shot spin, give me Etcheverry at 34-1. That's going to wrap it up, though, for the actual outrights. And now it's time for the lock and dog picks for some matches taking place on Monday and Tuesday. But before we get to any of that, do want to take a quick word from our sponsor. We're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is the place to play fantasy sports because it is the fastest growing fantasy app in the industry. They have great pick'em games. For example,
you can pick whether your favorite players will have a higher or lower stat total into their upcoming games. You can win up to 100 times your money in a single night. Pick between 2 and 5 players to build a pick'em entry. And you can also make rivals picks, which pits 2 players against each other. So you can pick which player you think might have more points, for example, in an NBA game. But a reminder that you should also join Underdog Fantasy because they have a lot of very fun markets for tennis. They have, for example, breaks of serve. They have aces. They have a lot of fun tennis options to make matches more interesting, and I recommend you joining the platform in order to take advantage of those opportunities. So sign up today with promo code SGPN to get your first deposit doubled up to $100, as well as an instant pick'em special. Visit underdogfantasy.com or find them on the App Store, and don't forget to register with the promo code SGPN to get your first deposit doubled up to $100, as well as an instant pick'em special. Must be 18 plus and present in the state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concern with your play? Call 1-800-522-4700 or visit www.ncpgambling.org.
We're also proud to partner up with Ava, the premier sports betting arbitrage tool. If you're new to arbitrage sports betting, it's pretty simple. Basically betting both sides of a bet at 2 different sportsbooks to lock in a profit. The AVO tool scans the sportsbooks, looking for discrepancies in the odds, and then they tell you how much money you need to place in order to actually make any expected profit. The tool is super easy to use and lightning fast because speed is a big part of arbitrage sports betting. The best part of AVO is that it's currently free to use without restrictions. That's right, completely free. Get started today at arbsversusodds.com. That's ARBSVSODDS.com. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Gambling Podcast. Just finished previewing Barcelona, Bucharest, and Munich. Now it's time to get into the actual lock and dog picks for the episode. Starting off with the lock for the show, I am going to go to a matchup in Barcelona between a Spaniard and a Russian. So I'm going to look at a matchup between Bautista Agut and Safulin taking place at around 6 a.m. Eastern Time on Monday. I'm going to go with the favorite here. I am going to go with the veteran. Give me Bautista Agut minus 2.5 games at minus 110. I know I've been roasting Agut for being past his prime, but it's a pretty good spot for him in this matchup. So Agut looked good at Monte Carlo, did beat Thiem, did beat Sonego, and then ended up losing. And he beat Diaz Acosta before losing to Hurkacz in a pretty competitive match. It was qualifying, but the point is he did beat 3 recognizable figures on clay. Thiem's a mess, so you can kind of toss that one out. But Sonego gave Humbert a decent run, for example. Good wins, though, against Diaz Acosta and Sonego, so I do like the current form that Agut is in. Safulin, though, really not known for being a good clay player. He's only played 2 clay matches this season. Beat Munar, and then he ended up getting buried by Djokovic. But he's really not known for being a good clay player, and I think he's going to struggle in Barcelona in front of Agut's home country fans because the support will be there. We know Agut is a Spanish legend in tennis. He has been around for a long time, and I do think the crowd will definitely help him out in that spot. Plus, Agut is older, which is why I don't trust him long-term, but he has not played since the 10th. So I do like the idea of backing a veteran guy who has not played any tennis for about 4 days straight. So I think that he should be fresh for at least a round. It might fall apart after that, but that's not my problem. I think Agut, off of about 4 days rest, looking at the home crowd fans and the fact that he looked very good in Monte Carlo before eventually losing to Hurkacz in a competitive match, I think he's in good form, and I think Safulin is really not a great clay player. Give me Agut minus 2.5 games, a minus 110 is my lock. For my dog, I am going to go to a matchup between 2 Frenchmen, actually, taking place in Bucharest. This one's also taking place at around 6 a.m., 6:30 a.m., give or take. Going to be between Gaston and Rinderknech. Give me the over 2.5 sets at plus 135. Gaston's been a 3-set magnet. He's been losing a bunch of matches recently, but he's been competitive. He has gone to a deciding set in 4 straight matches, but he's 2-0 in the head-to-head, both meetings on a hard court, but he has lost 6 straight matches. So I do think that it's kind of a balancing act between Gaston having Rinderknech's number and also really being in terrible form. So maybe you'll see some lapses in focus at various points in this matchup, but Gaston being good in the head-to-head and being in bad form, I actually like for the sake of an over 2.5 set match, because that means his style of play translates well to the opponent, but his confidence is low. So I can see him potentially getting in his own head, making some mistakes, and letting Rinderknech have moments in the match where he might win. And both players do have different styles. We know Gaston is a very small player in terms of stature. He's going to stand behind the baseline the entire time, use drop shots, unique angles, try to keep Rinderknech off balance. Rinderknech is the opposite. He's a really tall human being who hits pretty big serves and tries to unload on both wings. So with both players using different styles, I do think you might end up seeing each player have success at various points in this match and maybe in various sets in this match. But simply put, give me the over 2.5 sets between two guys that have faced each other a couple of times. Competitive matches, one of them did go 3 sets. You have a guy in Gaston who has been a 3-set magna recently, going to 3 and 4 straight matches. I like the price at plus 135. So once again, the picks for the episode, the lock's going to be on Bautista Agut in front of the home country fans in Barcelona at minus 125. At minus 2.5 games at minus 110. And my dog's going to be on Gaston and Rinderknech over 2.5 sets at plus 135 in Bucharest. That's going to wrap it up. Find me on Twitter at Reichel Radio. Find me on the NBA show. Find me on the MLB show. Find me on the NFL show. Get the point. A reminder, by the way, that we will be back for the quarterfinals of Barcelona, Bucharest, and Munich. I only did each round for the Masters 1000 events and the Grand Slams. Monte Carlo was a 1,000. These are not. So we're going to be skipping until the quarterfinals. I'll see you later in the week. Also, a reminder, though, I mentioned the NBA show. NBA playoffs starting this week. So a lot of NBA shows, a lot of important information there for the playoffs. I'll be on almost every day this week. So if you want to find some betting picks on the NBA, you know where to go. Anyway, until next time, good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Bye, everyone.